Hey there, YouTubers. It's I, Omki or Excalibur here, bringing you a top 13 video. That's right, I know it's been a long time since I've done one of these, so let's get started with a kind of special one. This time we're looking at my top 13 favorite animes of all time. Now, this list was really freaking hard to put together. This was because a lot of the animes that I put on my top 13 underrated anime list video are in fact some of my favorite animes to watch. And I would rather not repeat myself on things I've already covered. So I had to think hard on some other animes. Plus I had to keep rewriting it almost every time I sat down to write this review, because I remember this anime or that anime. Also, I had a couple really busy weeks of work. So, I'd like to apologize to my viewers for coming out so late. Later on, I might want to take a deeper look into some of the enemies that are in this list and others. So, the less I say now, the better. Now, let me stress something here, right here and now, before people start flaming the page. These are my favorite animes. These are not what I consider the best animes. Now, a lot of people would think, well, really, what the heck is the difference? Well, these are shows that are going to be good to okay, but I have a lot of fun watching over and over again, and if I were to catch them on TV or something, I would watch them, or if I was just in the right mood to watch them, I would. A lot of things that I consider best animes have things that are different about them thematically, structurally, as well as storytelling and things like that. And they're really good, and I do enjoy watching them, but they may not be something I would want to watch at the drop of a hat. I would have to be, well, really in the right mood to watch them. So I want to make that clear, that a lot of these animes that are going to be on this list may not be the best animes. And honestly, I can already see posts saying, well, this anime is better than that anime. Why do you have this anime on this point of the list? And I'm going to totally agree that a lot of the animes that are on this list or not on the list are probably better than the animes that I have or where they are on the list. They're just the way I feel about them. So without any further ado, let's get started. Number 13, Yu Yu Hakusho. Now, I'll admit, I like watching a shonen series now and then. It's a guilty pleasure, but I generally have a problem with them due to the fact that, well, they quickly became the exact same thing over and over again. And once a shonen series really reaches that point, I stop watching. And I mean, they really become the exact same thing over and over again.
I am the most powerful warrior ever, and I'm evil. I must power up and defeat you. I did it! I am the most powerful warrior ever, and I'm evil. I must power up and defeat you!
Yeah, I generally get really bored with these shonen series and just stop watching. With the exception of Yu Yu Hakusho. General plot for the series is Yusuke Urameshi wakes up dead. Yeah. Our series starts off with our main character dead. However, no one, including Spirit World, was expecting him to die at the time in the way that he did. So Spirit World makes him a deal. To bring him back, well, he has to become the spirit detective and take down demons as well as other spirit detectives and things like that. And generally makes the whole show a heck of a lot more interesting. When this was shown on Cartoon Network, I loved watching it. I spent a lot of time watching it. And this was because it was different in the way that it was presented and the way that it handled things. For example, it's far less about just becoming more powerful, fighting the big bad, and then next big bad comes around and fighting the villain and that whole rigmarole. It was really more about strategy and using the powers that each character had. For example, when he trained with Genkai, he learned how to use his spirit energy better by, being able to use the spirit shotgun or using his spirit gun more than once. The only real time I can think of that he just kind of just gets power was when Genkai during the Dark Tournament gave him the Spirit Orb, and it damn near killed him again. Which, there's an episode or two where Yusuke is in the most excruciating agony I've ever seen, and it's really kind of hard to watch sometimes. And afterwards, he's pretty much comatose for a little bit. This is different from like Ichigo or Goku, who are put in these situations as well, and they struggle with it for like maybe an episode, and then they're like, well, I figured a way around it, so now I'm better. And that's generally why I like this series. It's just different. Characters aren't necessarily more powerful than another, they're just different in strategy and power set. Now, I will say this right here and right now. I haven't actually finished this series yet. Not because I got bored with it, mind you, but due to the fact that they pretty much stopped airing Yu Yu Hakusho on Cartoon Network right before the final season, and trying to find an anime here in my area that's not Dragon Ball Z is next to impossible. But like I said, I haven't seen the last season, so my opinions could very well change, but as of right now, Yu Yu Hakusho is right where it belongs.
Number 12, Higurashi, or When They Cry.
This show is just creepy. I mean, I cannot explain the creepiness of this series. The basic plot follows a young guy who just moves to a country backwatered town and, starts making friends with a group of girls. Well, after the town's cotton drifting festival happens, something odd also happens. One person dies and another person disappears, only to be found dead later. And, the girls start acting insane. Our main character brutally beats a couple of the girls to death and then dies. That's the first 4 episodes, mind you. And after the first 4 episodes, the series resets and begins again. And I know this might be a turnoff for some people, but instead of just being the same 4 episodes and going through the same kind of crap that they did before, it's really different because each time they reboot the series, in a way, you are given more background on the town, you're given more background on the characters, and you're given more background on what's really going on. And it just adds to the creepiness, and you really start liking the show, even though you're creeped out. And the music is also really intense. It's just a great series to show, especially around Halloween. In fact, I showed this series for Halloween, I think a year or so ago at my anime club back at my school, and people were legitimately freaked out about it. In fact, the creepiest guy in our club looked at me and said, "I don't want to go home alone." And just to iterate how creepy this guy could be, he bit me. Yeah, he bit me. And the reason why he did so? Because he felt like it. Anyways, if you're willing to sit through a series with cutesy little girls that are harmless enough until they become the complete and utter psychos and be disturbed about it, watch this series. You'll have a good time. You'll have a good time.
Number 11, Trigun.
Now, Trigun was a show that I caught on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim way back in the day. And honestly, I really like this series. It is a sci-fi western, which is a genre I think that people should really like, but it never really seems to do all that well. But this is one of the more successful ones. The series follows the adventures of Vash the Stampede. Or, well, rather it follows two insurance girls who are looking for him. Once they meet up with the guy, they're very confused about the guy that they are with. For Vash the Stampede has destroyed one of the biggest cities on the planet. And when I mean destroyed, he fucking nuked it. There is nothing left. Yet, strangely, everybody survived. And the mystery deepens for these girls when they find out that Vash does everything in his power not to kill. And, well, honestly, it's something that is brought up later in the series, and you really get to understand the character once you find out the reason why he doesn't kill. Now, first time I saw this was the American dub, and Vash the Stampede was voiced by Johnny Yambosh, which if you don't know who that is, I just gotta say, what the hell are you doing not knowing who this guy is? Well, Johnny Yambosh, for you guys who don't know, was in fact the second Black Ranger known as Adam from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Is it just me, or now finding that out, does that make Vash 1,000 times cooler? And honestly, to add to Johnny's credit, he is an amazing actor with his voice. I have seen lots of dubs, especially during this time, that are just crap, because it's just people doing voices and not acting. And Johnny Yambosh really shows his acting prowess. He makes you really understand this character and makes him believable. And that's something really hard to do, especially in animation. He's done some other voice work, especially as Bumblebee from Transformers War for Cybertron, Ichigo from Bleach, and several other series. But honestly, this is my favorite role of his as a voice actor, because he just does an amazing, amazing job. And remember, folks, love and peace!
Number 10, Gundam 0083.
I got a confession to make, guys. I love Gundam. I have seen almost every incarnation of the series, and I know it's usually the same thing over and over again, but I just love it. Now, I can already see comments being put on this video saying, well, why didn't you put the 8MS team on your list? It's a much better series. And I agree with you. It is a much better series. It encapsulates the actual drama of two warring factions and giant robots, and just how fearful that can be. with that said, also, I own Gundam 8MS Team, and I do not own Gundam 0083. Again, it's really hard to get some animes in my area. But, as much as I really love the 8MS Team, I just love Gundam 0083. And I really think it's because they play with some of the themes of the Gundam series. For example, a very popular theme is, in which a lot of the Gundam series follows, is that the main hero has some kind of connection, or doesn't, with a secret Gundam project by the Earth Federations. Then Zeon, or some kind of space military group, goes in and tries to steal the suit. And, well, 9 times out of 10 they fail, with this young hero becoming the pilot of the new Gundam. However, this is the first series to really play with that idea. And that, well, one, there's 2 giant robots. And, well, the Zeon forces do manage to capture 1 of the giant robots. And it happens to be the Gundam that is the far superior one, with a nuclear reactor as a battery. And I'm sorry about the train, I'm near some train tracks, and I guess it's time for it to come. Anyways, so the hero of the story does get his Gundam. However, he now has to deal with the fact that the opposing forces have a far superior robot, and he has to try to learn to deal with that. And I really like that about this series. Also, I really just love the battle between the 2 forces, because generally in Gundam, neither side is good or evil. There are bad people on both sides. And I love that. And honestly, if you had to ask me, I'm more of a Zeon guy. Especially if you see some of the things that the Earth Federation does to the space colonies. I mean, they kind of abuse them, and when, the space colonies do say, hey, we would like our rights, and the Earth Federation goes, fuck off, well, what were they expecting? Anyway, another thing I have to mention that I really like about this series is the music. I mean, just listen.
Right.
Follow your moment's light. Never give up like we said. Ain't you coming to me by the hand? Take me to a place far behind me. I love that. I just wanna go back where I
いい寿司多い。ちゃんと操縦の仕方をお勉強してきたのか？
back to time.
Now, I know that song does not fit the scene whatsoever. It's completely and utterly inappropriate. But I still love that song. In fact, before I even saw the series, I bought the soundtrack for this show. I bought it actually on a trip through Europe. I was in England and I was in the Tower Records, and they had the soundtrack, and I bought it. And I listened to it all the time, especially this one song. I just absolutely loved it. I don't know really what it is about it that I love, but anyways, if you're looking for a Gundam series that's a little out of the ordinary, that isn't too far out there like, G Gundam, I really recommend this series because it follows a lot of the tropes of Gundam, but monkeys with it a bit before, any other series really had.
Number 9, Sakura Wars OVA.
Sakura Wars is a very popular game series in Japan, and I think a couple of the games have made it stateside. However, there are lots of animes and OVAs based on the series, and I bought the actual series and it sucked. Awfully. And the only reason why I bought this series was because I had the OVA. Now, the OVA is what takes place before the games start, essentially gathering up the characters. And the OVA essentially follows the adventures of a young woman named Sakura, who has just been inducted into a secret organization to protect the world from demons. And the way they do this is by powering giant mobile armors with their spirit energy, and they fight it with swords and things like that. How awesome is that? Oh, also their base is, well, a theater where they perform Tesserazuka. Which, if you don't know what Tesserazuka is, I think I've done a video on my YouTube channel. It's somewhere, I think. If not, let me know and I'll do a video on it. I've seen it myself, and it's one of the most awesome stage shows I've ever seen before in my life. Now, Sakura Wars is amazing. It is just beautifully animated. The OVA is just wonderful. I have seen this hundreds of times. One of the things I really love about the series is that the attention to detail. You see, a lot of the characters are actually from different countries. And because they're from different countries, you would expect them to speak different languages. But because it's an animated feature, at least I was expecting that everyone to speak the exact same language and all that rigmarole, and which I absolutely hate. It's unrealistic. However, this show surprised me by, having the characters speak the appropriate languages from where they were. For example, there's one character who's from France, and when they go to France, they speak French. One character's from China, they speak Chinese. And depending on what language you watch this OVA in the Japanese version, they go to America to speak with one of the characters who's Russian. And through the entire conversation, they are speaking English. Again, not so impressive if you're watching the English dub. But at the very end of the conversation, the character throws in some Russian, and it is just, again, beautifully done. It adds so much to the characters, and it really makes you see them as more of a three-dimensional character instead of a sack of crap. Again, unfortunately, there are only like 4 or 6 episodes, and when you reach that last episode, you really wish for more, because it is just done so well. If this sounds interesting to you, I really recommend hunting this OVA down and watching it. It is by far just one of the best pieces of animation I've ever seen in my life.
走れ高速の